Hello, this is Addison from the Agency of Narrative Intrigue and Mystery. This is another part of this series of quick start tutorial videos. I won't be going over every single little modifier and rule, so this is not a replacement for the rule book. You should still really read the rule book, but these supplemental videos they might help people get started. And in case you're intimidated by the page count, you shouldn't be intimidated by the page count though, because 3/5 of the pages are just tables and lists and character options that are not absolutely necessary reading. At the time of recording this, Eureka is still in beta, which is why it's got very plain design. It's fully playable, but the art is not finished and stuff. Some parts of it are still being edited, but nothing I go over here is probably going to be different from the finished product. At the time of recording this, I'm using the July 11th update, which is the most recent version of this time. So another kind of title for this video might be the 3 do's and 97 don'ts of game mastering in Eureka. There's a whole lot of expectations that have been increasingly stacked on game masters in this hobby for the past 30 or 40 years that have made game masters more and more an unpaid entertainer for a group and less a person playing a game with a group for fun, which leads to a high amount of stress and time sink and game master burnout. Eureka tells you not to comply with those expectations, and that's a rule, is not to comply with those expectations, which I'll elaborate on shortly. You might be very used to complying with those expectations, so much so that it feels weird and feels wrong for you to run a game without complying to those expectations. It might be very different from what you're used to and what you expect, but bear with me. The Game Master role in Eureka is called the Narrator. We chose that name because one of the narrator's biggest jobs is to describe things. And so to get those don'ts out of the way, the 97 don'ts, I'm just going to start telling you about the role that the narrator plays, starting with the don'ts and what you don't do as a Eureka narrator. Like I mentioned in the How to Approach Eureka video, this isn't just advice, this is rules. This is rules in the rulebook. And all of these rules are designed to make your job as Game Master a lot easier. The narrator does not describe the actions of the investigators. The narrator does not set a certain pace to the gameplay. The narrator does not write a plot, an order of events, or a story of how the investigators will solve the mystery. The narrator does not change the facts of the mystery to fit or defy the theories or expectations of players and investigators. The narrator does not cause spontaneous misfortune to befall the investigators because they're not taking the expected path. The narrator does not pull the world's punches or protect the investigators from the logical consequences of their own actions. Like if an investigator in a very shootable position makes fun of a mafia boss who shoots anyone who makes fun of him, it's not your job as the narrator to contrive a reason for why that investigator doesn't get shot. If the mafia boss is going to shoot him, then the mafia boss is going to shoot him, and if that dice roll on the mafia boss's part succeeds, then that investigator would get shot. The narrator does not fake or fudge any dice rolls to ensure a scene or a certain roll goes a certain way. The narrator does not come up with arbitrary modifiers to dice rolls based on how easy or how hard they think the roll should be, or the skill check should be. The modifiers will always be from an explicitly written rule in the rulebook. If you think that a dice roll should be much easier or harder than its modifiers from the rulebook entails, that means that it probably shouldn't be a dice roll in the first place. If it's so easy that you think it needs a modifier to make it easier, then you should just say that the character can do it without a roll. If it's so hard that you think it needs a modifier outside the rulebook to make it harder, then you should just say that it's too hard and they can't do it. It's not the narrator's job to come up with the modifiers. The modifiers are in the rulebook as we've written them with intent. The narrator does not act as an encyclopedia for the rules and abilities of the investigators. The players should be reading the rulebook themselves as well, at least enough to know what their investigators can and cannot do, and what the rules and procedures for those abilities are. It wasn't literally 97 don'ts. But there's a lot of adults. A lot of expectations have been packed on top of game masters that are not really healthy expectations and are not really compatible with the game that Eureka is trying to be. If you're hearing a lot of that and you're thinking, like, but a game master is supposed to do all that stuff when they run an RPG, my response is not really, because this is an RPG and it's telling you in its rules not to do all that. It's the rulebook's job to provide the rules. If you take on the burden of the rulebook as game master, then the players aren't playing Eureka, they're playing you. And I want you to imagine some kind of horrifying Warhammer 40,000 servitor body horror when I say that. That's not what Eureka wants to be. The game master, the narrator in Eureka, is also a player. They are not an entertainer for the other players. So if a narrator does not do all of those things, what does a narrator do? What you do as a narrator in Eureka is you play the NPCs, the non-player characters, much like a player would play a PC or a player character or an investigator, deciding and describing their actions based on their motivations and their personality and their environment. You describe the world around the investigators and how it reacts to their actions, and you work with the group to make ruling calls when there's some kind of edge case that the rulebook does not really account for. Again, like I said, the other players should also have a grasp on what the rules are. And lastly, it's your job as narrator to ensure that there is a mystery to be solved. There's two ways that you can do that and ensure a mystery is there to be solved. There's an easy way and there's a hard way. I'm going to strongly suggest that you go with the easy way, but Eureka and the rulebook give you all of the tools needed to do it the hard way if you want to do it the hard way. The easy way is adventure modules. Adventure modules have gotten kind of a bad reputation in the hobby lately on account of a certain, monopolistic, over-marketed fantasy RPG having their past several editions be putting out a lot of really, really bad modules that play more like scripts with a really strict order of events that have to be followed and specific scenes and specific dialogue, rather than being traditional adventure modules, more old school adventure modules that are not strictly scripted and railroaded and do not have a strict story that is meant to be followed. But adventure modules do not have to be like that script format that most more people are familiar with today. Adventure modules are very good of a tool to have for a game. At least the ones that we write are, and the ones that we write are made to be used with Eureka. An adventure module for Eureka will not be a scripted series of events and scenes. They provide a narrator with the facts of what happened to cause there to be a mystery in the first place, a list of fully detailed locations and what clues can be found there, a list of NPCs, what they look like, where they can be found, what their motivations and personalities are, what their connection to the mystery is, what they know. All you've got to do as game master is read it, take some notes, and set the investigators loose in it, and it'll be awesome. Don't let anyone tell you that this isn't real GMing, or that you have to, quote unquote, make it your own to be a real game master. This is a game that you're playing for fun. It's not a job. Writing mysteries is our job as game designers. That's not a job that should be thrust onto someone as an expectation to work 10 or 20 hours a week just to play a game with their friends. Let us do that job. We're professionals. At the time of recording this, there are 3 official adventure modules written by us available on our itch.io page, and one that's still Patreon exclusive currently while we work some more bugs out of it, as well as a handful of fan-made ones you can also find on itch.io. The ones that our team has personally read and liked are linked on our itch.io page as well. So the other way, the second way, is the hard way, and that is writing the mystery yourself. Writing mysteries is hard. Trust me, I've been doing it. There's probably no other genre of tabletop RPG adventures that requires more forethought and attention to detail than writing a mystery. The way Eureka works, the truth behind mysteries cannot be improvised. If the players and investigators start asking questions that you weren't prepared for, one of our adventure modules will have enough concrete details in it that you can give a logical answer that fits with the existing facts. If you're improvising, you don't have that luxury, which means that you have to have stuff written down before the first session even starts, which is what an adventure module is for. A mystery is like a puzzle, and all the pieces have to be there before somebody starts putting it together, or it'll probably end up unsolvable. The facts and the evidence must be concrete and cohesive. If you don't have the facts down, a piece of evidence you improvised in one session won't make sense with a piece of evidence that you improvise in the next session. And before you know it, the facts that the investigators have gathered is just a bunch of nonsense that don't fit together. So luckily for you, the Eureka rulebook contains a whole 10-step guide that breaks down exactly how to write your own Eureka mystery for best results. I'm not going to talk through the whole guide here because that's not really within the scope of the video, but if you follow this guide, it makes it pretty clear and easy of how to write a mystery, as well as how much you actually need to consider, which is a lot. Because again, Eureka is assuming that the facts of the mystery are not improvised. If you do write a mystery using this guide, you can also sell it. You can sell your own modules, and we'll even share them around for you if we find out about them and we think they're good. We'll promote them. We don't take any cut of the profit from that. We just like it when people make adventure modules for our game. We want to play adventure modules made by other people for our game because we like our game and we want to play it. And obviously we can't play our own modules that we wrote because we wrote them and we know the answer to the mystery already. And the world needs more adventure modules in general. The type of game that Eureka is, the type of game that Dungeons & Dragons is, really works well with the kind of open-ended adventure modules that just provide a situation and let the party interact with that situation. And those have been sort of falling out of fashion, and we need to bring them back. That's about all I got for this video. Thank you for watching. You can get a beta PDF copy of Eureka on itch.io. If you Google Eureka Investigative Urban Fantasy, you'll find it. We'd appreciate it if you paid for it so that we can pay our bills, but payment is optional. You can get it for free. You can also get more up-to-date versions from our Patreon, patreon.com/The Agency of Narrative Intrigue and Mystery Patreon. If you can't afford to pay, like I said, the itch.io version is free, payment's optional, and you can get a lot of our stuff for free. Another way that you can help support us, besides money, is to share this video around and like the video, show your friends, tell your friends, download Eureka and play it with your friends. We want our game to be played. So thank you for watching. Bye.